Whenever you hear the word Route 53, it's spelled this way: AWS Route 53. Okay, I'm just going to expand it so you can understand better. This is it here. Okay, AWS Route 53. Okay, so if you open your AWS dashboard and you search through the search bar, you will see one of the service called Route 53. You understand? Now, this service, okay, I don't want this to be distracting us, so just have to terminate with this. Okay, so just like EC2, S3, RDS, this is another new service we are learning today. If there's anything you should know about Route 53 is DNS. DNS. Has any of you heard about the word DNS before? Anybody? If you have, you can attempt telling us what you think it means. Anybody? Okay. Anybody? On the comment section, can you let me know? Have you heard about Route 53? Oh, awesome. Awesome. I'm so glad, Mr. Abdusaman. Awesome. So usually it's interchanged between domain name system and domain name service and domain name server. It's usually interchanged, but if you can say that either of these three is the same thing, okay? But I'll try to put more context to it so you can understand the difference between domain name system, domain name service, and domain name server. Okay, if you're able to mention either of these three, you have a point. Okay, all right. So DNS, that's the full meaning. So even if you come here and type DNS on Google, okay, and you just hit enter, this is what you're going to see. Domain name system, domain name system. All right. So it's used for a whole lot of things, but I want to make it very, very simple such that you'll be able to relate. And I also want to ask you, or maybe try to refresh your memory. There's this popular interview question I usually ask people, and majority of the interviews I always attend, especially for cloud engineering roles, for DevOps roles, and for IT roles, just so that the company can gauge your technical skills or your technical capability, right? They throw you an open-ended question. And the question comes in this format. They ask you, if you buy a new computer system, you open a browser, right? And you type www.google.com or even youtube.com and you hit enter. Can you tell us what happens when you hit enter? Do you understand? It's an interview question. You open www.google.com. When you hit enter, tell me what happens behind the scene before this page is being displayed. Did you get it? I'll paraphrase the question again for every one of you. Imagine you're in an interview right now for your first cloud engineering role, and the question posed to you is a technical question. They simply asked you, when you open your browser and you type on the on the address bar www.google.com, when you hit enter, explain to us what happens behind the scene. Do you think it's something you can do? Is it difficult? Just type yes or no. Let's see. Is it difficult? Yes or no? Do you think it's something you can do? Yeah. Yeah, great. Great response. Great response from what you all typed there. Yeah, okay. Great. So now, friends, I want you all to understand that humans, right, have the capability to remember names much more than numbers. Okay? We have the capability to remember names much more than numbers. Okay? So we always associate information, things, items, devices with their names rather than numbers. Okay? Friends, let me show you the image of an internet. So if I come here and type internet, okay, if I type internet and I click on images, this is what you're going to see. Okay, this is what you're going to see. Okay, different computers connected together on the internet. All right. Now, I want you to understand. Okay, let me look for another beauty. Okay, let's just use this one, right? So, if this is what the internet looks like, right? This is what the internet looks like. Different devices connected together, right? I want you to understand that every computer on the internet is identified with an IP. Do you understand what I just said now? Every computer is identified on the internet with what? An IP. For instance, if I want to know your, if I'm looking for you, right? Maybe I live in Nigeria and you live in the United Kingdom. I have never been to the United Kingdom before, but I want to locate you. I want to track you down. Now, the first thing I will want to do is to take a flight and get into England, right? And then I try to start tracing my way down there. Now, do you know that when I get to England, I won't just say that I'm looking for Peter, for instance. I won't be able to find Peter because there are so many Peter in the United Kingdom, right? Now, the first question they may ask me was, where does Peter live? Okay, so Peter could live in a city in England, right? Peter could live in a street in that city, and Peter could have a particular house with a particular number in that street. So the house has a number, you understand? And that number distinguishes every other house in the street. So your house has a number, okay? That is why your house address is different from every other house address, okay? So on the internet, okay, we use what we call an IP to uniquely identify a computer on the internet. I'll say it again. An IP is used to uniquely identify a computer on the internet. Okay? IP simply stands for Internet Protocol. Internet Protocol. Okay? Internet Protocol. Now, it's a way of communication. Okay? Now, but I hope this is not confusing anybody. Do we all understand this? If you understand my explanation so far, please just type yes, just so I'll be sure that we're not I'm not being too theoretical and confusing you all. Just to be sure. Okay, good. Good. Thank you. All right, let's continue. There's so many things I need to cover. All right. Now, having understood that there can be so many computers on the internet, this computer here has its IP. This computer has its IP. This computer has its IP. Anytime you open your computer and type this address, right, and you want to maybe visit facebook.com, okay, Facebook might be somewhere else, okay. Now, the question is this. I want you to understand what's happening. What you type on the address bar is a name, okay? http://www.facebook.com. That's what you type. But behind the scene, there's something that happens, okay? Some people have defined it on the comment section. Something is responsible for translating or converting this name you type to an IP. Okay? So, because when you type www.facebook.com, the computer might not know who facebook.com is. Do you understand? It needs to be able to identify that computer. Okay? So, if this computer here, for instance, or let's use this one, let's say this computer here, let's copy this, copy the image, and let's paste it here. All right, good. So, let's put this here. And let's use this. I hope this is going to allow me to type. Let's see. Okay, let's say this is www.facebook.com. facebook.com. All right, let's reduce the size. All right, good. So let's say this is facebook.com. This is facebook.com, right? And this is my computer. Yeah, this is my computer. So all I typed was www.facebook.com on my browser. Okay. Now my computer is supposed to move across the whole world. Okay. Not necessarily the whole world per se. There's a lot of things that happen. We call it hopping. Okay. Now, but it's actually looking for the closest server. We're going to touch all those things, but I want to take it slow and steady so that it can make sense to everybody. Okay, so once you type www.facebook.com, there is something responsible. DNS is responsible for converting this domain name. Okay, this is called a domain name. Okay, a domain name. This service is responsible for translating this domain name, or let's call it this URL, translating this URL to an IP, because this computer has an IP, this has an IP, this has an IP. The only way that this computer can know who it's targeting, because if this guy types www.facebook.com and hits enter, okay, the information is going to go across trying to look for who owns, who knows the IP, who knows facebook.com. All right, that's the way it works. And this computer might not be able to identify itself except with the help of a DNS. To make this much more interesting to you all, this is what I'm trying to illustrate here. Okay, we're still going to touch this, but I want you all to understand this is how it looks like. Okay, this computer here, you type www.example.com, okay, and on the browser, your computer does not know who www.example.com is. That's why you see a question mark is here. Okay. So what happens is this: your computer is going to check something we call a cache. Okay. The computer is going to check its browser history. It's also going to check its operating system cache. Okay. It's like a file, a memory to check. Do you know who example.com is? I am looking for www.example.com. That's what the browser does. Okay. And it doesn't know who www.example.com is, right? If it doesn't know, it's going to move to the ISP provider. That's the internet service provider. In my case, I'm using MTN. All right. So the internet service providers, they have their own servers. Okay. They have something we call a resolving DNS server. It's a computer that they configured and installed a software. So I want you to see this DNS as a phone book. Okay. If you've ever seen a yellow page book before, a yellow page back in the day where you have businesses and their associated phone numbers documented, like a yellow page book, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Every name is mapped to an ID. That's exact. So every name is mapped to a phone number. Okay, that's exactly what's happening here. So let me show you an example of a DNS record. So if we come here and say example of DNS record, let's click this. All right, good. So if you come here, if you click here, you're going to see things like this. Friends, can you all see this? You're going to see that there are different names associated to different IPs. Okay, don't worry about the types for now. Okay, just know that you can see a name map to a value. So that kind of database that stores this kind of record is the DNS service. Okay, so DNS server is a computer or is a software that is installed on a computer, okay, to provide a domain name service. Okay, so the service is the action, okay, but the software that you configure on it is what makes it a server. Okay, so such architecture is what we call a system. I'm just trying to do the difference between the domain name system, domain name service, and domain name server. Okay, I hope this is not confusing to anybody. okay? But it's used interchangeably, all right? So behind the scene, you don't know that anytime you come here and type www.google.com, once you hit enter, something is happening behind the scene, okay? And one of the things that happens behind the scene, okay, is with the help of the DNS, okay, with the help of the DNS system, okay? So AWS Route 53 is AWS managed service or AWS managed DNS service, okay? It's a service being managed by AWS, okay? So back to this architecture. Once I'm done explaining this, we're going to do a practical hands-on here, okay? We're going to spin up an EC2 instance and try to set up a local DNS, okay? We might not make it complex using bind9, but we'll just set up something very, very simple, okay? So, but let me explain this architecture here so that you all can understand, okay? So if you type www.example.com, follow the number. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6. I hope this doesn't confuse you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see that? Another thing I want to show you, friends, before I move on is I want to show you something. If I come here and type, some of you must have seen this a lot of times. So if I come here and I type www dot let's say achiever.com, okay, so some of you have seen www.achiever.org. Is it not true? You have also seen .net. Is it not true? .net. You've also seen maybe .info, okay. Now some of you have also seen www. let's say achiever.co.uk, or sometimes you may just see .ca for Canada or .ng for Nigeria or .us. Okay, so these are the things I'm trying to explain. Okay, we're going to touch all of them step by step so that you can make sense out of this. Okay, so when you see this, okay, what does it mean? So I'm going to use one of them. Okay, let's use this one we have here, which is the www.example.com. All right, so this is an example of a URL. Okay, this is a URL. Okay, universal resource locator, which is also called web address. Okay, and this is being separated by a delimiter called full stop. Is separated by full stop. Okay, now each of these things has special meaning, special meaning, special meaning. Okay, as a cloud engineer, your company will always want you to provide them something that looks like this. If you have practiced with your EC2 instance, you agree with me that usually what you get is an IP address. Is it not true? It's an IP you use in testing your EC2 servers running. Whenever you install or configure something, what you have there is an IP address. Okay. Now, do you agree with me that when you stop the instance and come back later and start the instance, the public IP changes? Is it not true? Now, because the public IP changes, it's not a good practice. Okay, so customers are not supposed to be having that IP address changing every now and then. Okay, and secondly, it's also going to be difficult for them to remember that number. Okay, that IP address is too long for some persons. 37.42, they could lose it. But if you tell them they should use www.example.com, they will remember this easily. So can you see two reasons why we work with a domain name or URL? One, because the IP changes. Two, because it is difficult to memorize. You see that? Two reasons. Now, the next thing we want to solve is this. Why or how do we know which of them to choose? Is it .com? Is it .net? Is it .info? And so on and so forth. Okay, so Seeing that we have, let's say we have 39 persons on this call. Okay, we have 39 persons on this call. I want to assume that we have a task that requires us to set up a project, and especially Chief Abiola's project, if you all can remember, right? The product we built for Chief Abiola, and then we hosted it on AWS EC2 instance. You agree with me that it is not a good practice, with what I've explained to you, to just give Chief Abiola the IP and tell him to go and test it, to share it to his customers. Okay, it's not a good practice. So how do you solve that problem? Okay, that's the question. How do you solve that problem? Or if you, as a cloud engineer, have a client, a freelance client, or any client reach out to you, okay, and they ask you to set up a product for them, and you did that on AWS EC2, okay, or whichever service you use, and you set it up, but you need to provide, configure this kind of web address for them to use and not the IP address, okay? So these are the few things you need to consider to get started. Okay. Now, to get started, the first thing you need is you need to buy a domain. That's the first thing you need to do. You need to buy a domain. We use the word buy or register. Okay. The first thing you need is either to buy or register a domain. So if you need something like this, example.com, or you need something like achiever.com or .org, you need to go and register it or buy it. Why we do not use buy a lot of times is because nobody has 100% ownership of a domain. Nobody has 100% ownership of a domain. For instance, this is Escalidro. Okay, if the owners of this domain don't consistently renew their subscription or renew their ownership, if it expires, somebody else can buy it. And if somebody else buys it, they will have to pay if they need it back. Do you understand? So you can as well imagine this is Twitter, right? And you know the current URL for Twitter is now x.com. X.com. Can you imagine how much the person who owns that x.com must have must have been paid for him to own, for him to sell it to Twitter? That's Elon Musk, right? So it's actually a business of its own. People make a lot of money just buying and registering domains. Okay. So you never can tell, the one you buy tomorrow, somebody might need it and they place an order and they could tell you $50,000 for something you just bought less than $1 or $1. Now, so the first thing I told you, you need to buy or register a domain. So the question is this: where do we buy or register a domain? Okay, so if you come here, there's so many of them. Okay, so you can just simply come here and type domain registrars. Okay, now if I come here and say domain registrar, you see so many of them. Okay, now there's Namecheap, there's Cloudflare, there's GoDaddy, there's Hugo Hosts, there's host.com. There's so many of them, so many of them. Okay, this is Hugo Hosts, Domain King, so many of them. Okay, now, but let me see. The popular ones out there is Namecheap, Bluehost. If you're in the UK, there's one called Host UK also, if I'm correct. So, but let's try Namecheap so that you all can relate with my examples. So, regardless of the registrars you're using, okay, remember the problem we are trying to solve. We are trying to get a domain like this. We have our product built and our application running on AWS EC2 instance. We can test it with the IP, right? So what we want to do is to convert that IP to a domain like this. Does that? I hope everybody gets the solution we're trying to solve. Good. So I said the first thing you need to do is to register or buy a domain. Okay. Now, so there are so many of them. Okay. So many of them. So Popular ones are Namecheap and many others I've mentioned. So if I click on this, it's going to take me to its platform. So let's wait for it to load. Okay, good. So now if you can see this, great. Now, if you watch here, it tells you register a domain name to start. You see that? Now, friends, don't get bothered or distracted with all those things you see here. Okay. The most important thing I want you to understand is this search bar. So let's assume that there are so many domain names, right? And the one I want to use is maybe achiever.ng, right? So I can come here and type it there and say achiever. Achiever. So if I come here and just type achiever, you may not want to put .ng. Just type the name, the domain, just and click search. Okay. So when you do search, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of results. Okay. Now, so you see, it's telling you achiever.com, though it has been taken. Can you see it? Though it has been taken, but I can also make an offer. Can you see that? Aha. So now, but if you want to, you can go for achiever.net and then you pay for $6,000. Okay. Aha. So if you say no, this is too expensive, you can come down here. Achiever.xyz, achiever.io. You see, these are different rates. Okay. Now, but all these things here are ridiculous, ridiculously expensive. Is it not true? Now, because of the name that is being used, the domain. This seems to be a very, very interesting name. So imagine if I now decide to use Apolanga. Even I don't know the meaning of what I typed, but I just typed Apolanga. So imagine, did you notice the prices has reduced drastically? Because they don't even know what that means. Okay, so now if I want to go with apolanga.com, they tell me, okay, this is available. I can add it to their cart and pay $11 per year. You see that? Now, if I say no, I don't want a .com domain, I can go with .net, I can go with .org, I can go with .ai, .gg. Please, I hope we all can see this. So, in fact, did you see apolanga.store? 0.98 per year. Okay. Now, I will encourage you to please, because in the next class, we'll need to do this practically. Okay. So, I will look for cheaper platforms where you can buy a domain that is very, very affordable. Okay. I don't think it should exceed 2,000 naira or 1,500. Okay. That's the dollar conversion for anybody who needs one. And but there's a lot of things you need to understand, because this amount you're seeing here is different from the retail, because you see it may tell you $2.98, but it's retailing at 19.98. In other words, after this first year, your subsequent payment is going to be $19. You see that? So you want to be very, very sure that you don't just click add to cart, except maybe you just want to bless them. Okay. So, but remind me, I will try to, in the next class, I'll try to, or before the next class, I'll look for cheaper ones. Okay. That we can be able to find and get more affordable domains. Now, although there are places you can get cheaper subdomains, not free. So this is a domain itself. There's what we call domain. There's what we call subdomain. Okay. But for now, I don't want to make all this too complex for you all. Okay. So the most important thing is just the domain. Okay. So coming to this is what we have: www.example.com. Okay. Now, while I'm trying not to be too fast than myself, this is called a top level domain. Top level domain. This is called the second level domain. This is called the third level domain. But let me show you that so you can see what I mean. Let's see if I have it here. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. So you may see something like this. You may see something like this. You may see something like this. If you are used to Google, for instance, if you've ever used Google Drive, you're going to see something like drive.google.com. Did you see? Drive.google.com. Is it not true? If you've ever used Google Form before, you're going to see okay now not this one. I think there's another one. Let me see. There are other let me see. I'll click here and see. So I think good, like Meet. If I click on this, you're going to see that what shows here is meet.google.com. Did you notice that this one is always changing, but this is remaining? Do you understand? So this is what we refer to as the subdomain. Okay. So if you watch this, it's this section here. It's called the subdomain. Okay. Subdomain. So it can always change. So I want you to understand that www.example.com is not the same as example.com. Friends, I hope that makes sense. Okay. They are different things. So it's possible to have a different website showing here and a different website showing here. Okay, so sometimes it's the job of the engineer, either the DevOps engineer or the cloud engineer, to make sure that if the person types this, it will show you the same thing with if the person types this. So they will all be pointing to the same website. I hope this is not too confusing for everybody. I hope this is not too technical. Any question? Anybody? Do we understand so far? So I'm trying my best not to do so much. I'm going to do a simple practical so that I can demonstrate what I'm talking about right now. Okay. So let's try to spin up. Okay, good. So this is an EC2 instance, not an EC2 instance, a simple Linux environment that I have here. Okay. So friends, we've done setting up web servers with Nginx, right? I'm going to install Nginx right here and show you guys something. So if I come here and type sudo apt update -y and I hit enter. Okay, it's done updating. So now let's install Nginx, which we all know it's a web server. So I'll type sudo apt install nginx-y. In the next class, I'm going to use Apache as my example. It's another web server. Okay, good. So we're done. So friends, if you watch, this computer has Nginx already installed on it. How do I know that? There's a way I usually check it from the terminal. If I want to check it from the terminal, all I would do is to use the coil utility. So if I type coil and I say http :/ localhost, sorry, localhost. So if I do this and I hit enter, what did you see there? Did you see welcome to Nginx? Now, this is what I did, in case you're wondering. http :/ localhost. I hit enter and it worked. Now, how about if I want to use the IP? So how do you get I'm sure you all know this by now. How do you get the IP of a computer system? It's just to type IP space A. Okay? Or you type it in full, IP address. If you do this, or you type IP address show. Okay? Or you can also use what we call ifconfig. Okay? ifconfig. It's going to give you the IP address. Now, but if you get this error, it means you need to install it. All right. So these are different ways to check for the IP of your computer system, especially if you're running on Ubuntu. Okay. So let's proceed. I'll just type IP space A and hit enter. if you notice, this is the IP of this computer system. Okay, this one here. All right. Maybe when we get to networking, I may touch more about this. Okay, but this is the private IP of this machine right now. So if I come here and type coil space and I put this IP here, which is no, this one here. So I will type 172.30.1.2. So if I hit enter, can you see? It still tells me welcome to Nginx. So either I use this, okay? Either I use this or I use this other one called localhost. It's still going to work. So friends, do you understand? So either I use this or I use this. It's still going to work. So what if I don't want to use localhost? What do I do? Let's assume I want to use Achiever. What do I do? So this is the IP, okay? And whenever we do coil the IP, it loads the web server and shows us the results. So friends, I want you to understand that on a Linux computer, there is a file or there is a location where the computer always check. Okay, so do you remember when I talked about the DNS, resolving DNS? Okay, so I told you it will first of all check itself. Okay, if it's on the browser, it will check the browser cache memory before it will check the operating system cache memory. Okay, now in this Linux computer, there is a location where you can always check for what we call mapping. Okay, mapping. Let me show you. Just do this alongside with me. Okay, just use the cat command. All right, put a space, put a slash, and say etc slash, then type the word hosts. Did you see that? This is a file inside this directory. Okay, so if I hit enter, you're going to see a lot of things inside. Did you see? This is a file. I use the cat command to check what is inside this host file. Okay, and inside this file, there's all these things are inside. So did you notice that there's a mapping here? You see, this is the IP mapped to this local host. Did you see that? This is mapped to this. So I want you to understand that I can also do the same thing inside that file. Okay, so let's first of all open that file so that we can do our own mapping. So how do we do it? I'll press the up arrow key, Control A. I'll remove this cat. Then I can use nano. Okay, so it might ask us to use sudo, but let's see. Okay, so now this is the file that is opened. Okay, now in case it doesn't allow you to open the file, make sure you put sudo in front of it. Okay, so I'm just going to come down here, right, and do something. So I can choose to use the private IP or I can use the local host IP. Either of them will work. Okay, so but let's just use the local host. So if I come here and say 127.0.0.1, put a space and say achiever dot xyz or dot x. Okay, dot x. Okay, let's use dot xyz. Let's see. Good. So this is what I have here, right? I'm going to press Control X and Y and then hit enter. Okay, so I've edited that file and added my contents. Let's use cat to check it. You see, I added this. Is it not true? So friends, let's try and say coil and put a space and say http column / achiever dot xyz. Now something is going to happen. Did you notice it still tells me welcome to Nginx? It still tells me welcome to Nginx. So I have done a mapping. Okay, we call it name mapping. So I have done a mapping here inside this file here. So you may be wondering why this IP address 127. This is every computer's local host IP. Okay, we call it a loop back address. You will always bounce back to yourself. Now, just so that I don't get you confused, remember I told you about the private IP, and the private IP is 172.30.1.2. Let's try it and see if it's going to work. 172.30. So I'm going to open that file, okay, and come down here and say 172.30.1.2. I hope that's what I saw. So let's see if we try Vivian dot test or dot xyz. Okay, so Control X, Y, and enter. So let's say coil, and if we try the IP alone, coil 172.30.1.2. If we do this, you see it's still working. Welcome to Nginx. Okay, so let's try only. You may be wondering, I didn't put HTTP. Yes, it still works. So let's try this Vivian dot x y z. It still works. Friends, do you understand what we just did? That is what we call name mapping. Name mapping. Please, does this make sense to everybody? That's what we call name mapping. Okay, so we are configuring our own DNS locally. Okay, so anytime somebody types www. What is it called? Anytime somebody just types vivian.xyz, it's going to tell the person, welcome to Nginx. But that is not how it should work. Why? Because it means that anytime you want to check every domain, it means all the configuration we've done so far is only in this file. Do you understand? The configuration is just in this file, and it doesn't make sense. Okay, so we don't want this configuration that we did here to just be stored in this file here. You understand? The etc host I talked about. Okay, we'd want it to be outside this file. Okay, so that is why in the real world, right, so you can have your own configuration file here, okay, your own DNS routes here, your name mapping routes here, or your DNS server here. You can also have another one, your ISP DNS. Do you understand? And we can also have what we call the root DNS, okay, and we also have what we call the top level domain DNS, and then we have what we call the authoritative DNS. Okay, so anytime you type something on the browser, it first of all checks that /etc/host file. It checks the browser. Do I know who this person is? If it doesn't find it on this computer, then it will move to go and check the ISP provider, their DNS service. It will be trying to resolve it. Okay. It says, I'm looking for www.example.com. If this guy says, I don't know who it is, go and check the global zone, which is the root DNS. So this ISP will point you to this person. Okay. This happens in nanoseconds, very, very fast. The moment you hit enter, these are all the things that happens very, very fast. Okay. So this sends it to this. So this servers here, which we call the root domain name server, right? It will tell you, I don't know who www.example.com is, but I can see that you have .com there. And .com is a top level domain. Okay, that's what we call it, top level domain. It's not just .com, .net, .com, .org, .info. Those are top level domains. Okay, you may be wondering who does all this. There's a body called ICANN, ICAAN. Okay, they are responsible for the assigning of numbers and names. Do you understand? So and some big companies like Verizon and the rest of them, they are responsible for this kind of domains and the rest of them. Okay, so this guy will say, okay, go and ask this TLD address. So this it will send this guy to go and check. So this guy will come to this because this is the TLD DNS, right? So this is the one point. Instead of pointing it down to this place, it just sends a request and say, no, this is who you should go and check that can help you. Okay, so this guy is going to send the request to this person, okay, through the ISP, okay, your internet service provider. It sends the message, who is www.example.com. So the TLD DNS will look at it. Immediately you see this .com, you'll be like, okay, I think I know where you can go. Go and check this name server address. So this it is looking for example.com. So it once it sends you to this person will send this ISP provider will send the information to this authoritative domain name servers. Okay, and is this authoritative domain name servers is where we store these things. Okay, www.example.com, mail.example.com, db.example. So all these records are stored here. Do you understand? They are all stored in this server. Okay, so this will send the information to this, and then this is the server that knows who this w.com is. It will now tell you, okay, the IP for www.example.com is this IP. So it will send the information back to this ISP, and the ISP will send it back to this computer. Then this computer will now say, okay, thank you for sending me the IP. It will now send the information directly to the server that has the IP. Okay, so the communication will now be between both of them. So it doesn't need to travel all this route again. So it will now be communicating with this server because this is the IP on the internet. So whenever you type www.example.com, it will go straight to this computer. So, friends, this is what happens behind the scene. There's much more that happens, okay? But focusing on just DNS, this is what happens behind the scene. I know this seems like too many information, okay? But I don't want to lose you, okay? We're going to take it slow and steady. Do you need to memorize all this? The answer is no, okay? But I want you to know that anytime you are given an IP address, you can convert it to what? A domain name like this, okay? So you don't need to worry yourself about all these things. So you see this authoritative DNS here. This is Route 53, okay? So AWS set up something like this, okay? And that is where you're going to do all the configurations, okay? So I think this would be a good place to stop so that we don't make it too technical. So what have we been able to cover today? Okay, we've been able to talk about the domain name service. Okay, domain name service, which is what helps us to translate a name to an IP. Do you understand? So that the computer can send information directly to that computer with the IP. Do you understand? So the next thing I try to ask us is this. I told us that supposing you have this IP and you want to convert it, what do you do? I said the first thing you need to do is to go and register a domain. Okay, so there are so many domain name registrars. There's Namecheap, there's GoDaddy. You can come here and type GoDaddy. Okay, and don't click on this sponsored. Okay, for some reason I'm not comfortable with that. So you can click on this and it's going to open the website. Okay, so you come here and type what you're looking for. Supposing we are looking for Jafar, okay, you can come here and say search domains, okay, and then it's going to start searching for domains. You see now, but these amounts are just too huge. Do you understand? So now, but you can come here and look for something friendlier. Do you understand? Different things. Okay, this is $3. Okay, now but again, these rates are too expensive. Okay, this is $0.19. Okay, this is jafarpk.com. Okay, first year only with 3-year term. Okay, So you need to check this very, very well, because that is showing you $0.19 does not mean that you will pay 0.19 every time. It's only for the first year. Now, let me show you something quickly that just came to my mind. If you are a student following this session, or you have a student around you, okay? Now, when I use the word student, I don't necessarily mean maybe you are going to the four walls of the university every day, right? But let's just say you are joining a program and you have an email address that identifies you as a student, okay? Maybe a .edu email, okay? I want to point you to something that can give you a free domain, okay? So you can try it out if you have it, okay? It's called GitHub Starter Pack. Student, let's see. Yeah, let's come here. Student Developer Pack. Okay, so this is only available for students. Why did I say I wasn't the one who said it anyway, but you can check it out. Now it's going to give you a lot of things, a lot of freebies. Do you understand? So if you are able to sign up for this, okay, but you need to provide proof that you're a student. They're going to ask you to upload maybe some identification like an ID or something that can identify that you're a student. Okay. Now, these are all the free benefits that comes with what is it called? With becoming getting this student pack that I'm talking about. But the most important one I want you all to see is this. Did you see Namecheap here? So you're going to get 1 year free domain, but it's going to be on .me. Did you see that? 1 year for free. You don't need to pay anything. There's another one called name.com. Did you see that? There's another one called there's name.com. So I think let's say build, and so I think this is going to be free because there's no period here. There's no period. Now this is another one too. Free for 1 year and 2 free email accounts. Did you see that? So I'm showing this to everybody. And also, in case you're going to be doing the intermediate, you can also get this certification for free. And all these are only available for people who are students. Okay, so if you click here and say you want to sign up for Student Developer Pack, you need to provide your email address. Do you understand? And then you will need to do some verification. Okay, so I'll just send the link to anybody interested, and you look into it. But if you know the money is not a problem for you, please, you can just buy a domain. Okay, so once you've purchased the domain, the next thing is actually to do the configuration. Okay, the configuration where you now connect this domain that you've just registered or you've just bought, to map it or to connect it and route it to this domain. Okay, so these are the things we are going to cover in the next class. Okay, just like I showed you a practical example using the Ubuntu that we set up here. Okay, I showed you on the Linux environment there, and you saw how it worked, right? That's the same thing we're going to be using AWS Route 53 to do. Let me quickly show you AWS Route 53, and then we'll wrap it up there. So I said I was going to share the link. Let me do just that so nobody gets lost. Okay. Okay, I'm going to take your questions. Okay, just give me some time, please. All right, so let me sign in. Let me sign in. Okay, good. So if you come here and on the search bar, you type AWS Route 53. So this is what you see, Route 53. So you click here. So the same way you've heard about infrastructure as a service, the same which we call AWS EC2, right? The same way you heard about database as a service, which we call AWS RDS. I want you to know that there's such a thing as DNS as a service, which we call Amazon Route 53. Okay. So everything is as a service, as a service. So it's called DNS as a service. All right. So this is how Route 53 looks like. Do you understand? So you see these domains you are buying here, You can also buy it from Route 53. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Okay, you can also register domains here, and then you can configure it. So you may be asking me a question: what if I buy it elsewhere? Can I configure it on Route 53? The answer is yes. Okay, so if you want to buy one, you can click on Get Started. Okay, so you can register a domain. You can also transfer one. Okay, now, but these are all the many things we can do, but our focus is on this, to register a domain. So just leave it on this, scroll down and click on Get Started. Okay, we're not doing much. I just want to show you. So all you need to do is to come here and type the name of the domain. So if I'm looking for achievers, you understand, .com also, just click on search. You understand? And it will try to search. Can you see it said achievers.com is not available? And then you can see it's suggestion. Okay? Whichever one you're comfortable, you can select it. Do you understand? So this is how to register a domain. And once you do that, you can check out and it will do the propagation and then you'll be good. Okay. Now, but of course, the pricing can be affected based on the top level domain. Okay. Based on the top level domain you are choosing. This is AC, this is Academy. So if I choose something like this, you're going to be having achievers.ac, achievers.academy, and the rest of them. Do you understand? So we're going to cover this and more in the next class. But today is like an overview, so that you can know what Route 53 is. It's for domain name routing or domain name configurations. Okay, so map a name to an IP, right? So I think this is where we're going to stop. So if you have a question, please let me know. And again, this will be shared. Okay, let me just share this with you all on this session. Okay, to I would still do the explanation in next class. Okay, so that's the image for those of you who asked. So you can check it out. Okay, you can check it out rather. So any question? Any question from anybody? So I think this is where we're going to stop for today. Right? So don't make the session too lengthy. So the what is it called? The Route 53 does not require too much things, especially for this beginner session, right? So in the next class, it's just going to be click here, click here, click here, and you're good. You're done. Do you understand? So, but I wanted us to understand the foundations first of all. That's why I started this week. Okay. So please, if you have questions, do let me know. So I have a question. It's saying, hey guys, out of context, please just okay. Will delete itself. I don't think it will delete itself. Just be sure that you've checked the region. Okay. In case you can't find it, please check other regions to be sure it's not there. Okay. So if for any reason it goes away, maybe you deleted it. Okay. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Ramon. So I actually asked I gave us a task in the last class. There was a link. I was hoping that somebody will tell me that they've done it, but the few times I came online, I didn't see anybody confirming they've done the WordPress configuration. So just maybe, you know what? I think that's what we'll do tomorrow in the next class, right? Maybe we'll just I would have said let's do it now, but it's already late. Apart from that, literally not in a good position to stay longer. All right. So in the next class, maybe we'll just set up a simple WordPress server and connect it to RDS. And then we'll try to make sure that we use our Route 53 for the configuration. You understand? So I think that will make more sense. Okay. So if any of you can buy the what is it called, the domain, that'll be fine. If you already have one, that'll be fine. Please let me know so we see if we can use it for the configuration. Okay. If you have plans to buy some, let me know so that we can know how to make sure that you get a cheaper one. Or if you want to try out the link I shared with you, please try it out. Okay. I hope one of you get it so you can get access to it for free. Okay. Any other question from anybody? Any question? You're welcome, Ashraf. You're welcome. Any question from anybody? Friends, you can unmute yourself. I don't think I did the general meeting today. If you have a question, please let me know. Anybody? Okay, I think there's no question today. So yeah, that'll be it then. So I will try to send, if you check the book, the ebook we have on the Google Drive, you're going to see the notes. Okay, please, you can check that ebook. It has more information about Route 53. Okay, I'll also try to send more information, but in our next class, we're going to be going more hands-on and more practical. Okay, so but I just wanted us to understand what this is and how it works. Okay, so in the absence of question, I guess we're going to stop here for today. Yep. All right, let me see, just to be sure. Okay, no hands are raised. Stop the recording.